Welcome in our trade deadline special here on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Ashlyn Sullivan and Al Morganti here with you. A more active day than we thought was going to happen, but a very busy week for the Flyers. A lot going on as they are in a playoff spot right now, coming off a big win over the Florida Panthers last night. But this special is all about the trade deadline, who came in with the Flyers and who has left. Al, overall, what we knew most likely was going to happen, and truthfully, what we knew was going to be the biggest storyline of the week was Sean Walker most likely going to be traded from the Flyers. He goes to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for a first-round pick in 2025, and that's the key. They get a first-round pick asset for Sean Walker.
Yeah, they did. It's finally over, the wait after having so much attention. I'm a little worried Hartnell's not here. Did they not move him? I'm always worried when Scott's not here, but he'll be with the team in Tampa for Saturday night when we do the game. And the Walker thing was the big deal. I actually think by winning in Florida, shoring up the defense today a little bit, get Johnson, get a little bit of insurance. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. This team, Ashlyn, kind of continued to make it more difficult for the front office. If they wanted to say, well, we had a good run, now we're all in for next year, but you got to be in for this year, the way they played. And they kind of fortified themselves a little bit here on the final day. And they managed to get, as you mentioned, getting a first rounder for Walker. And, after what had happened previously, that was a hard sell to me that you were going to manage to get that. You have to wait a year for we're being told a better draft, but it's still a testament to the things that have got done. And I think what you're seeing is it's very complicated beyond just the names that you see, retention of salary. In essence, they become money launderers for other organizations that park some money here and then you have room there. So it's not as much the fireworks as some past deadlines, but the little machinations are remarkable on what they had to do to get all this stuff done.
Right. And I think that's what's so impressive with general manager Danny Briere is most people just look at this trade with Sean Walker and they think it's just an exchange of a first round pick. Easy does it. Not necessarily. And it's a little confusing with this Ryan Johansson taking on his salary. And Al, I think explain this to people because I think it was confusing to me. Wait, he's on the team. Now he's not on the team. And I love Danny Briere being very matter of fact last night when he spoke, saying that probably not a fit for Ryan Johansson on this team. So what happens now?
Well, if they can't, I guess they try to move him at that trade deadline. It doesn't look like that they've been able to. My assumption is in the summer, you have to buy him out. He's not going to play here. That's pretty clear. From the moment it was made, it was like, that's not a fit, not especially with John Tortorella here. Not that, Torts couldn't kind of wiggle around it, but I don't think it wasn't going to be a good fit. I actually thought I think they tried pretty hard to find a spot. So unless there's an absolute emergency, I would think, okay, we'll see what we can get. If not in the off season, you're just going to have to eat some of that salary. But you had to sort of do a lot of things to get other things done. That's why I said it's so complicated. And don't forget, when you make some of these deals, you're also building relationships with other general managers. Like you did this for me. Now in the future, when you have a situation here, you got to park some money, you have to do this. Maybe we'll be there for you. So There's a lot of that going on too.
Danny Briere, a very busy guy. We're going to hear from him live upcoming here shortly. But let's go to what he said last night about the strategy right now. The Flyers in a playoff position. How did he balance wanting to win this year with the rebuild they've been very public about?
We're looking at it. It has to make sense. We're not going to give away assets just for the fun of it either. But if there's something that makes sense, we will act on it. And it's a fine line. We're also trying to. This is a great time to give our young guys a little bit of a look. Doesn't sound like Nick will be out of lineup too long. So hopefully we can survive without him for a couple games. I don't know exactly the amount of game. I'm not, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be till the end of the year. So hopefully we can survive that.
So good news there on Nick Seeler. And I want to get to that extension as well. Nick Seeler staying here for 4 years. But I think fans mostly want to know what just happened in the past hour as Al and I were driving in to come do this live stream. The Flyers getting Erik Johnson, a veteran defenseman from the Buffalo Sabres, in exchange for a 2024 NHL draft pick. And Al, it was pretty clear the Flyers, they've been able to make do with these injuries, but you at this point just need another defenseman for this season.
Yeah, the kids played well last night.
They did.
Let's face it, Addard, I thought, played really well. Jennings made some big hits. I don't know if you can count on that every night that they have to play. And it's interesting, like Danny said, Sealer, they don't think it's going to be that long, but you don't know. And I'm assuming Ristolainen and Drysdale, they may be gone the season. We don't know. You never get much on injuries, but I think you have to guard against that. And that's what I was saying previously. The success put them in a tough spot to have moved a defenseman. And you see what happens. Like Sealer, he blocked like 22,000 shots and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, toward the end of the year, you block one in the wrong spot and you're out. Mm-hmm. So I think what you really had to, as much as anything, was tell your locker room, we're going to get you some insurance here. You don't want to go into the final 10 days of the season, still have a sniff at the playoffs and like, my God, 3 more injuries and we don't have anything in the cupboard. So this kind of gives you that insurance. I think when you have accumulated as many assets as the Flyers have, you can spend it. I mean, it's not like you're going to just continue to collect. I mean, they now have the ability to go get somebody like this to get the insurance just in case. Right-handed shot, older player, been through the playoff grind to reach the end successfully. So, I mean, that all matters to a locker room. And as much as there's plug and play, he'd be a plug and play guy. And if the kids don't, maybe they stumble a little bit, and maybe you just need a different look going into a final couple of weeks.
Right. And I think with Danny Briere, he's been so upfront that he wasn't just going to spend assets to spend assets. And I think this is a perfect combination because I think if Flyer fans would have seen them spend a first round or maybe a second round pick on something like this, it would have raised some fires. But a 4th round pick, like you said, Al, there's no reason to save these and bunch all of these up. And I think for Erik Johnson, a veteran is key word here because this defensive core right now is incredibly young. You look at Cam York, who's made major strides, but really it was Travis Sanheim was the guy because we don't know right now the future of someone like Rasmus Ristolainen, and Erik Johnson might be a guy that's here a couple of seasons, Al.
Yeah, he could come in. I'm assuming he just comes in. I'm hoping that these kids look good enough, and you've got other kids coming up that all right, you come in and you help out. You help out what happens at the end of this season, just in case. And there's so many injuries, especially later in the season. Like York, he's playing banged up still. Imagine that if that had been a little bit worse, where you're really empty on that side. So I think that was owed to just make everybody in that locker room feel a little bit. Plus, there is a competition too to get these kids the ice time to see who's going to play. What you got going on? There aren't many teams that have done this here. We've kind of had one foot on each side of the track without getting electrocuted and to see what's happening here. And that's what they've sort of maintained through this. I mean, when I can wind back to the Sixers process, which was like, oh gosh, what a mess. I mean, you didn't even try to win. And this team's kind of rebuilding and playing hard and winning games and may get a playoff spot. So I think it's pretty commendable to be able to do these 2 big things at once.
It's incredible, especially for someone like Danny Briere, who's still new to this whole general manager game, to be able to balance this so well, so quickly. And I think Flyers fans will know this name well. Wade Allison gets traded to the Nashville Predators, and it's pretty clear Wade Allison was not going to work out here. He played basically the entire season down in Lehigh, but had his time with the Flyers as well, and Al didn't seem like a fit any longer.
No, he was a north-south player, which I liked. I thought he had some potential because he'd go to the net and get some things done. But Ashlyn, I think what you've seen with this team, York gets sent down, works hard, comes back up. Other players get sent down, kind of, even with the, young players this year. Brink goes down, comes back up because he really excelled down there. I don't think they got that response that they were looking for in Allison's case. I think he pretty much looked around and I don't want to say shut down, but he didn't have the response that they were sort of looking for. On the other side, good kid, Had some upside. Sometimes it's just a change that you need. I
Right.
mean, maybe, Tortorella is not everybody's cup of tea.
Shocking.
Yeah, that might, maybe he goes somewhere and it works out for him. But it was pretty clear to me last year this isn't going to happen.
And what
It's
about
just
the
not-
prospect they get back for him, Al?
Well, I mean, a commodity that's been, has he's been bounced around a little bit. Garryana's been bounced around a little bit, but I don't know that you're going to count on him long term. Just come in, see what you've got. You can be surprised a lot when a guy comes in, but I think this is just a case of we'll give you this and see maybe you can get something out of maybe our problem you can get something a little bit more out of. I do think that Dallas is when Dallas, been through everywhere. When you bring up a guy like that, and then you go to Nashville, you go here and there. It's always a bit of a warning sign when you've been bounced around a little bit, but you never know where it's going to click. I wouldn't look at it. I would look at this as more just a shuffle type of a thing. And if you hit, you hit. But I don't think they're putting a lot of money on the table with it.
Gotcha. And as we wait here for General Manager Danny Briere to join us live as the team is down in Tampa Bay right now, I think we got to talk about the players that are staying here, that were in major trade conversations and making everyone who really likes these players a little bit nervous. And that is Scott Laughton, who has remained here with the Flyers. Danny Briere was very honest that they were going to ask the world of a trade exchange for Scott Laughton, a first-round pick. Seems like they didn't get it, but I think that could almost be seen as good news for the Flyers, because this is a piece that I was frankly worried about. If this guy leaves the locker room, what's going to happen?
Well, selfishly, I mean, he's a good quote.
Yeah.
He's a very versatile player too, and I like that. And I think he's a guy you can plug in here and there, and whatever you need, he would give you. So, I mean, I'm happy that he's here. I think the locker room's happy that he's here. I think the coaching staff is happy, and that's where you can kind of hold your ground if you're Danny Briere and say, we don't have to. You have to literally make me an offer I can't refuse, and they could refuse a lot of what they were offered. There were some names, you look around the league, you get Toffoli, you get some big names that were moved. So I think the Flyers were also fortunate there, in that there were other options for teams when the Flyers' ask was too high. So Laughton, and he also, if he for a guy that wanted to stay here, I thought he was going to play himself out of town because he was playing so well. Like, oh my God, look, somebody's going to take a look at this, and I think the other thing that was not attractive to other teams was there was term left, and in a lot of cases, this is just money. It's like, that's why they like contracts that are going to end at the end of the year. And this isn't the case. So I think that also kind of made it easier to stay here, or less likely that another team was going to take a bite of the apple there.
Right. And for another prospect that is now staying here in Philadelphia, Nick Seeler, it was either going to go one or the other way. Nick Seeler was going to get traded, or they were going to have to work out an extension for Nick Seeler. And it's an incredible story of a guy that almost quit hockey a couple seasons ago. And now look at him making the most money he's ever made in his career, and just a guy who deserves it, who plays the Flyers way. And I get some fans are saying, why would you extend him? Why would you give him all this money? Someone that's on the older side at 30 years old. But I think as long as John Tortorella is here, he wants a player like Nick Seeler on this roster.
Yeah, and it's more than Torts. I think they also realized the fans love this guy. And this was a really interesting contract because he got a no movement for a couple of years. And I think that was important to him. And I think he gave up some money in terms of length of contract and the ability to say for a couple of years, I'm not going to go anywhere. And that's key to me, that you have an organization that people want to stay. This is, this is a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in a bit, with a coach that's got a reputation. Some guys would maybe blanch at coming and playing here, but this guy loves it, the way they play here, wants to be here, wanted to be a part of it. And I think if he wanted to hit the home run in terms of money, I think he settled for a inside the park home run, if you will, rather than hitting out of the park, because he's got some security now. And I think that's going to be valuable, and also valuable in terms of, you never want to lose the work ethic that this particular group has. Every year it's a different team. There'll be changes next year. But when he's in the room, you have that element of we're going to go out and literally take a shot for the team.
Right. And I think Flyers fans as a whole, the ones that have been up to date on all these trade discussions, understand where Danny Briere is coming from, where he says he's not going to hit the home run to get a big time prospect this season. But I get why that's confusing now. And I want your thoughts on this, because I think most general hockey fans are thinking, you have all these picks, you're in a playoff spot. Why don't get it right now? What's the holdup for? What's the wait? But I think there's key here that timing has to be right with something.
Yeah,
like
I don't think
this.
they're going to make a Stanley. I mean, yeah, goalie gets really hot. Who knows? But I don't think this is an organization that's going to fool themselves into thinking, we're going to go a long way. Compare them to like Carolina. I mean, all of a sudden, Carolina went from being a housewife to wearing Louboutins. I mean, they just went and got everybody, right? They just figured, okay, this is it. We're gonna go for it all. We're gonna go for broke because we've got the talent here to do it.
Right.
I don't think the Flyers were in that position.
And you got to think, if this works out the way that the Flyers want this to work out, John Tortorella has always said, give it 2 to 3 seasons, and then they are in that position to go hit that home run in free agency and attract star talent. And if this works out the way they want it to, it's not that far away that we'll be in this trade deadline discussion freaking out about who's coming to Philadelphia.
No, because in lurking behind all of this, is Michkov when he comes over. You got Bonk, a defenseman, Barkey, who they've signed. That you don't know that they're for sure, but Michkov, I'm betting that he is.
Yeah.
And I mean that changes everything. And when you add that to your lineup, to your roster, and then it's like, okay, if there's a trade deadline, we have to add a piece. But to quote my old friend Brian Burke, only one team wins a cup.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do anything you want at the trade deadline, and you don't want to screw up everything for that short-term toy.
Right.
I mean, these toys that you get at the trade deadline, in many cases, it's like buying a dog a thing, and then an hour later it's ripped up. There's nothing there. And like, you're hoping you got the thing that lasts a long time. But
right.
I've seen too many where like a month later, it's like, what the heck was that?
That was a waste of money.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't work out. 100%.
Yeah.
And as we wait here for general manager Danny Briere to be live stream, the team is in Tampa right now getting ready to play the Lightning tomorrow. Let's take a look at what else has gone on around the league. Al, anything surprise you today that happened?
Well, Colorado just kept adding. Well, today was like, you got Toffoli. If you want to look at Toffoli, the Devils, they got a goalie finally. But at what point? I mean, the last exit in the highway was three times ago. What are you doing now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you should have done this a month ago. Maybe the coach wouldn't have been fired. And I don't even know how long term it is. I mean, that was, to me, like, that doesn't seem like you should have done it a while ago. So that was a bit. Boston ends up, adding Pat Maroon, who's obviously been a winner here and there, a tough guy. And I think some of that is important as they go through. So I look at that as, okay, that's an addition. I don't know that anything tilted the balance. Carolina's been doing things all along. Gensel, I mean, that was a huge deal. So I think Carolina and Colorado, to me, are the teams that you most looked at and said, they really think they got a shot here this year. In Florida, we saw Tarasenko the night before. They continue to add pieces to their team, and they think they've got a real shot. So, I mean, those are teams that for real, mm-hmm. have chances to win. But, not everybody's going to get through. I think Carolina threw the most into the middle of the pot, and they push everything in this year.
Right. And you understand why a team like the Florida Panthers, who the Flyers just saw last night, want to add those star pieces, because that roster is just stacked right now. But you still have to get past the Torontos and the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. So after the trade deadline now, who do you think is going to win it all?
I'll surprise everybody with this one. I think hiding in the weeds is Dallas.
Really? I didn't think you were going to go there.
No, I didn't either. But I look at it and so I see all these moves being made, and I look at them and I go, that's a really good team that's kind of lurking there and out west, and like the goaltender can really be big for him. And I just got Tanev was a big ad for them. Like that wouldn't surprise me that they quietly could emerge from everything here.
100%. And as we wait here for general manager Danny Briere, the Flyers, they have and I say this all the time on pre and post game live when we laugh. They have a really tough schedule coming up here, but this one gets really tough as now they have a couple of additions to help out with the final 18 games of the season. Tomorrow night is against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it's going to be a goalie matchup for the ages. And I love what Sam Ersson said, Al, about how he wants to play against the best goaltenders in the league. Because normally when you ask a goalie that question, they're like, oh, whatever to help my team, it doesn't matter. He was like, no, I want to play against the best to show what I have. So it's going to be an awesome game tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good team. And here's the thing with them, Ashlyn. They got spanked again Thursday night. And was it Calgary? They, lose a game. And so they come in, and now they are in an issue with, they're in a wild card race with Detroit, and could be the Flyers. Who knows? So it's crucial now for them. This becomes desperation time for Tampa. And the Flyers are going to run into that. It's like, they look like they were sort of in a safe spot, but another loss, and and then all of a sudden you'll come home and can't afford to lose this. So I think they're going to be a far tighter team than the Flyers are right here.
Right. And as well as we keep up with all this trade deadline news, and it's very clear the teams that believe they have a shot and believe they're going for everything. And Vegas definitely stands out as a team today that is going for it all, and as they should be. Their roster is incredibly talented.
Yeah, that team, Vegas, is a great study in the business world. I mean, because since they came in the league, it's basically go for it, and that's unheard of, to come in as an expansion team and then every year make moves, dramatic things, coaches, whatever it is, to just keep everything fresh and mandated that we're in it to win it, and that is remarkable for a team that young to have this sort of reputation already. They've become like the Rangers out of nowhere, to come in and just, okay, what are we going to do this year to make sure that when they say who might win the cup, that Vegas is in the conversation, and they make big moves. There's some controversial stuff with guys that can't play, and they all of a sudden they've got long-term injuries, and this happens. But all of a sudden they add an Eichel at one point. Petrangelo. They just did monster moves, well thought out. McPhee's done a great job there in their front office, and I guess for the league, and even for more than this league, that team is so important just to sports. Like, since they went there and had success, like, other leagues are going there, and they're not, you don't think they're disappointed with their football situation after they see what the hockey team does in year one, right. And when you go in, and the demands that will be there now to be successful. And in whatever sport it is, they went there first. They proved that they could exist there. It's not just the tourists, whatever. So, I mean, I give them full marks, and I'm not surprised at all whenever they do anything. It's like, you know what? It's another year. We want to be one of those teams when you're looking at it and say, the playoffs start, be careful, they could win it all.
Right. It's a team that's absolutely going for it. And the Flyers now 18 games remaining. The biggest transitions here, Sean Walker to Colorado. They are adding Eric Johnson, who we're expecting to see. I don't know, Al, you're going to see him tomorrow or probably next week?
I don't know. I would think it would be harsh for me the way those kids played the last game.
Right. I was thinking
to not get a.
And they're on the road trip.
They get on play, and then Stahl ends up getting a huge assist on the winning goal, and you watch him play during the game and go, well, maybe he's not quick enough right now, but smart enough for sure to go in and make a play like he made. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle this going in. But I think for right now, the way those kids played, I don't see why you wouldn't just march them right back out there.
Right. So maybe you see Eric Johnson at the beginning of next week. They got the San Jose Sharks, a home game on Tuesday. And I was talking to some Flyers fans over this past week, and they were just asking because they were very well aware of the Carter Hart goaltending situation and how well Sam Ersson has stepped in. But they said, what about backup goaltender? Isn't that a piece that they really need this season? And I said not necessarily, because I believe Felix Sandstrom has won that job, but I thought as well that maybe they would have gotten a piece there, but maybe they have confidence in Felix Sandstrom that he's the guy for now.
Yeah, I thought they were going to. I mean, if I put a fan hat on, I'm like, yeah, he did play well, Sandstrom, but I would feel a little bit better if I had I don't want to always worry about the real bad thing that happens, but goaltenders get hips, pull a groin, whatever. It's like, wouldn't be wouldn't be bad to have a guy with a terminated contract that you bring in a veteran goaltender who would have been around to just come in and, okay, just in case, we'll park you here and you'll be ready to go. Just insurance. I think if they thought they had if they honestly believed that there was a long-standing a playoff run in potential, they would have done that. But I don't think that they were even risking. I mean, if you're going to, you're going to run out your draft picks to get a defenseman, then you are saying, man, what are you doing now? Another draft pick to go get a goaltender. I personally, if you had said the goaltender or that defenseman there, it would have been a tough call for me one way or the other, especially after seeing those kids with the goaltender situation. But I've not watched Sandstrom that much, and if they feel secure with him, good on them.
Right, and probably you're going to see him a couple more games this season as the Flyers do have some back-to-back situations. And thank you all for tuning into this trade deadline special. We know there's a lot going on, so we want to recap these trades for you. Before we let you go, the biggest news, Sean Walker to the Colorado Avalanche. That happened a couple of days ago. The Flyers get a 2025 first-round pick for that trade, so that is massive because everything you're hearing from hockey is that 2025 draft is supposed to be stacked. So that's why the Flyers wanted a 2025, not a 2024, since Scott Laughton remains with the Flyers. That's big news. Eric Johnson comes to the Flyers in a trade, a veteran defenseman from the Sabres for a 2024 draft pick. Wade Allison, a prospect for the Flyers, we know, goes to Nashville Predators. A lot going on. So Al, after this trade deadline, what is your confidence with this roster and the way the Flyers really handled this?
As much as it was the trade deadline, it was the way they played in Florida that got me thinking, that's a real gut check win. I'm still worried about the Islanders, who really cranked it up against San Jose, and we hope the Flyers can do that next week. But I'm confident in the team, and most of that confidence, Ashlyn, comes from the goaltender. If Ersson continues to play like this, I think it's going to be very difficult to have the Islanders or even Tampa, if it becomes a wild card situation. It didn't look good a couple of days ago, but Tampa's really stumbled. They've added people now. So I think the Flyers are in pretty good hands with that goalie.
Absolutely. And the Flyers, they are in Tampa to get ready to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning tomorrow. So you can tune into Danny Briere's press conference. The Flyers will post that later on today. And thank you so much for tuning into this trade deadline special. A lot going on in hockey, a lot going on with the Flyers, but they are in a great spot, a playoff spot right now. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Pregame Live tomorrow.
Who knows where